So from those 10, but not everyone had used this base 10 system. There were other cultures that used different systems. Do you realize that? For instance, like actually the people who inhabited this area in southwest US, they used a base 8 system. So what they would do is instead of looking at like your fingers, they would look at the spaces, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 4 here. It's a whole different way of looking. It's a whole different way of seeing. And it actually creates an entirely different understanding of the world. There was South American or Central and South American cultures that used a base 20 system because they use fingers and toes. So you can imagine what counting to 20 on your fingers and toes at sports speed would look like, right? Now, we start with numbers, but then someone said, I think it was Albert Einstein, make things as simple as possible but no simpler. What happened is, once we have language, once we have numbers, we can begin creating more complexity. Everything that we have today is just layers of complexity built upon the original culture, which has always been here. Now, complexity is good in some cases. I like my computer. I like my cell phone. I like my car. I like airplanes. Those things are all awesome. But sometimes we need to be reminded of where it all comes from. It all started with a notion. And then what we realized is we can divide and multiply things to make our measurements easier. Right? So if we have 9 things, 9 can be split up into 3 even groups of 3, right? So if you have 1, 2, 3, okay, and 1, 2, 3, this is where it gets weird. You guys ready for this? This is where it gets really interesting and fun, because 3 times 3 gives you what? Right, so if we put them together, then you have your Z Health lens. I'm sorry, that's just a joke. It reminds me of a commercial I saw, right? But here's the thing. There's a way, once you've learned how to count, and that's important, you got to learn how to count first. But once you've learned how to count, I think we can simplify. So if you turn over, turn over to page 25. You see this weird drawing that I got there. This is where, I'm sorry, 26. Page 26. This is where arithmetic became fun for me. I started thinking back to 3rd grade, and I can't remember a thing. I don't really, it wasn't any fun. I don't remember learning a lot. But suddenly, once I had that lens to put on, all of a sudden math got fun again. And I started studying geometry again. I started studying counting again. And what I thought was, we have 3 R's in our phase. Tell me if you guys dig this. We have 3 R's in our phase, but ultimately we're always adapting to exactly what we're doing. So we're always rewiring, right? We're always changing a little bit. We're always recreating. Our neural networks are always recreating themselves. Sometimes they're getting reinforced. Sometimes we're destroying old networks and recreating them, replacing them with something new. That's neural chunking, right? Now, if we take those 3 R's, most of our friends, most of our clients, if they come to see it's because they want to be a little different somehow. They're asking you, help me create myself a little differently. So those 3 R's, if we divide them, we can have 1 R, recreation. Now recreation, like it says on your sheet, recreation is an activity of leisure. Leisure meaning something done in your discretionary time. Discretionary time is free time. What's the opposite of free? So, first and foremost, this system's about freedom and about having fun. Now, if you take the 9 S's, I think we can take that 9 and split it down into 3 different levels. We can shed it down into, first, the sprinting level or the solo level. So sprinting refers to solo work. Anything you do alone to recreate yourself. It's essentially Z-health, intrapersonal Z-health, within yourself. And sprinting's the best way to rehab, provided that you've done the work to allow you to sprint. Does that make sense? So this supposes, since you guys are here today, this supposes that you've been practicing R phase and I phase and S phase for a while now. The greater the load, the greater the learning. The loads in sprinting get really high. If you want to grow, I remember Dr. Cobb said something, and I wrote it down not long ago. He said, if you want to grow, 3 things. Muscle damage, that's kind of self-explanatory. Neuromuscular tension. You guys know what that is? That's the loads that we can put ourselves under while we're sprinting. And hypoxia. You guys know what hypoxia is? Are you looking it up?
No, I was taking notes on something else.
Hypoxia, well, don't worry about looking it up. I'll tell you what it is. It's a fancy word for breath control. So sprinting is the intrapersonal level. Z-health also operates on a bigger level, a social level. That's where we get sports from social interaction. Sports allow us to communicate with one another, to have contact with one another, to coordinate our movements together as a team, to practice teamwork. And really, what sports do is they give us an opportunity to play out all of our emotions, all of our stories. The stories in sports are repeated over and over again. There's underdog stories, there's triumph, tragedy. We learn about sportsmanship. We learn about courage. All of those things occur in sport. So we actually created sport so we could practice all these things in a safe environment, in an essentially an error-free environment. So we could practice interacting with one another and play out our emotions. Because they can get bottled up inside of us and make us constricted, confined, constrained, take away our choices. The bigger level, the last level, is what I call the surfing level, or the solar level. And the reason I call it the solar level, are you guys aware where waves come from? Well, the moon plays in with the tides, right? But actually, ocean waves come from weather, which is created by the sun. So solar energy heats the atmosphere, creates wind. Wind blows across the surface of the water, creates a swell. So the surfing level is really connects us with everything in the solar system. Z at the solar level reminds us that essentially we're all connected. It reminds me of that John Muir quote. This is just coming to me. If you tug on anything, I'm probably getting it wrong, but if you tug on any one thing in the universe, you find it's connected to everything else. That's what the surfing level reminds us of. So Z operates at these 3 levels. The solo level, or sprinting, the social level, or sports, and the solar level, or surfing.
Get what I'm saying, forever. Yeah. Kenny Parker in the background. Forever.